Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you particularly for those in the audience who've bothered to come out on a rather cold night. We're now starting the agenda for tonight. I hope that you've got a copy. We're privileged to have with us Michael, our County Councillor here, and Johnny Shilton, our Ward Councillor. So Mike will be saying a few words in a minute. One or two formalities. Do we have any apologies? We have an absence here, but hopefully he's going to turn up. We have no declarations of any interests.
I was just going to raise a small.
We do.
A non-pecuniary interest in a consultee for Coombe Bank House, which is the Coombe Bank, Kingsgate Lane.
That's right.
That's us.
Yeah.
I've just ended up in cheerleader practice.
Can't you be warmer?
Definitely.
And very much minor, other
Thank
than is me. I do attend climate change conversations and I see that they're looking for money. It doesn't have any direct effect on me, but I am loosely connected to it. I only attend, I don't run it.
Okay. And I'd remind everybody that we will be recording the meeting, and so you should be careful of what you say, but you must say what you feel nonetheless. We now adjourn the formal meeting for what we call our public session. I'm going to ask Mike, who's taken the trouble to come along, just to say a few words, because I think we're all interested in what's going to be happening in local government soon under this government. And so, Mike, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much, Chairman. I thought I'd just say a few words about the two twin topics of devolution and local government reform. These are two separate but closely linked issues, which together they represent the biggest change in local government for 50 years. So it's a serious matter for all of us, and it will affect all our lives to some extent. On devolution, the previous government was working towards towards greater involvement of political responsibilities. And then the new government, that arrived last July, have accelerated the pace significantly. And they're very serious about having a change of local government and reforming it. The first letter from Angela Rayner to council leaders came in a fortnight after the July election, in giving us an indication of what was lying ahead. For devolution, the government wishes to establish new strategic authorities in every area of England, to be led by elected mayors. These strategic authorities will be given additional funds to carry out a range of devolved powers and strategic responsibilities. As you're aware, a number of these mayoral authorities exist already in the north of the country. But the government are insistent they intend to have this across the whole of England, and everyone will have a mayor-led strategic authority. Alongside the devolution, the government wishes to bring forward a reform of local government, to end the two-tier council system, which we've been used to, and replace it with unitary councils, each with a population in excess of 500,000. And I think their thinking is, though they haven't published it formally, I think that something like 700,000 is the sort of figure they expect to see around the country. And these unitary authorities will deliver the full range of public services currently provided by the county council and the district councils. So we'll see, I'm afraid, the county council go, the district councils go, and Medway council go. And Kent and Medway will now be split into a number of unitaries. How many? Not yet known. 1, 2 or 3. And the thinking is probably 3, but that's only speculation. I personally favour 1, but I don't. It is quite big, I appreciate it, but nevertheless it would have coherence to it. My concern over unitaries is they have no identity. There is nothing to hang on to, whereas Kent has a long and proud history, and is can be identified. And even the districts now have an identity based on the county towns in which they live, which is Ashford or Tunbridge or Maidstone. So they have an identity of their own. are we going to end up with sort of Soviet style, unitary number 1, unitary number 2, unitary number 3? I mean, that's frankly depressing, I think. So, you know, anyway, it's all up for grabs, and we have yet to hear what the government intends to do about the number of unitaries. If we have, assuming we have something like 3, then we're probably looking at 90 councillors, something like that, in each unitary. So the number of councillors across the county would be in the area of 300, which is about half of who we have now, the districts in this county and Medway. So it is a reduction in the total number of councillors, and therefore a reduction in the democratic representation, which is an issue. But on the plus side, alongside this reform, the government intends to strengthen the roles and responsibilities of parish councils, which is something I certainly strongly welcome. I've been saying for ever so long I've been here that parish councils don't have enough responsibility, don't have enough defined roles, and don't have enough money. So I think if they do strengthen that, it will actually do a lot to help the democratic responsibilities and allow the population to actually have someone they can refer to, someone they can bring their problems to, and someone to fight their corner for them. As I said at the beginning, the timings in this document are very tight. The government white paper, setting things in motion, came out on the 16th of December, helpfully 1 week before Christmas, as government papers often do. And the County Council had to respond by the 10th of January, and we did. Our response was for the question of whether to join the priority programme for the first tranche of authorities to move to this new. And we said we'd want to do so together with Medway. We sent a joint response to the government saying Kent and Medway wish to be part of the first tranche of councils to take this step. And this would mean that the new election for unity authorities could take place in May 26, possibly May 27. I think it gets slowed up, but May 26 I think would be the best, the optimum. There are implications though, and one of them is that the county council elections, which are programmed for May of this year, in a couple of months' time, may have to be postponed. No decision has been made on that. It's not our decision, it's the government's decision, but it would be possible that they have to be delayed or postponed. And we will know, I think, probably next month whether that's going to happen or not. We were promised an answer in January, that's now slipped to February, but we are promised an answer early in February as to whether or not the county elections will be postponed. I just sort of finally to stress that this is going to happen. The government are very serious about it. It is a flagship policy of theirs, and they are determined to force it through, come what may. My position is unusual. I was intending, as you probably know, to retire in May of this year. It be my intention. If the elections are postponed, then I shall have to stay. Or force a by-election. I could always do that. I wouldn't want to do that. That's expensive and disruptive. So maybe with you rather longer than I expected. I'm afraid. I think, just my final point is, I think it's a good idea, finally. I think unity is the right way to go. I think the two-tier system confuses people, which council they're talking about, whether it's the county or the district. It is more economical for sure, it's going to save money. There is a slight question mark about the democratic responsibility, but I think if the parishes will strengthen that, improve that. So overall, we will end up, I think, with a better answer. But it is going to be disruptive in the short term, and there's going to be a lot of work to put this all together. I'm less sanguine about the mayor. I'm not sure these successful metro mayors in the north of the country necessarily translate down to rural areas like Kent. It's a bit of a sort of one-man single point of failure. As I said to Johnny, mayors are a good idea when you have a good mayor. But I'm not sure they're such a good idea if you have a bad mayor. Yet to be proven. But they have been successful in the north, I think no doubt about that. So maybe it'll work. I'm just a little bit concerned about that. And the point is that there's a lot of pan-Kent organisations. We've got the police, fire and rescue, NHS, all working across the whole country. If this goes through, the only person politically working across the whole country will be the mayor. The unitaries will have their own little bit to work with, and that's it. So it's a lot. It's an unusual position to be in. And I think that I would not sure we would not have preferred to have seen the unitaries, but then have some form of system of pan-Kent. But I mean, the mayor is not entirely on his own. He's in a strategic authority. He will be working with the leaders of the unitaries on policy. So it's possible that we can work perfectly well. But if it's going to happen, whether we like it or not, and so be it. And John, I'll try and keep you up to date with as things move. It is very fast moving. You will know, as I say, in February what's going to happen about the election, and we'll have a better idea by then, perhaps, of how they're going to do the boundary changes. I mean, that's going to be a major exercise. We're now going to split up 12 districts into 3 unitaries, and it's going to be done by district. I don't know, all sorts of possibilities. And as you'd expect, much speculation going ahead, and many rumours go around. I was a sale that attended the town council last night by people who have been firmly heard we were going to go there, we were going to go there. Well, that's not so. Nothing has happened yet. I mean, we don't even know how many units is yet, but we'll have to wait and see. That's it.
Well, Mike, thank you very much for coming along and introducing us really to this. I mean, it's something of a shock, I think, for most people, which is perhaps a bit surprising if it was always part of the government's policy. But does anyone have any specific questions they'd like to address to Mike while he's there on this point? It is.
Can I just ask something for clarification? As you first introduced mayor as a strategic authority with a mayor, my mind wrongly, it seems, went down the fact that each unitary would have one, but you're saying it's bigger than that. So Kent would stay with one, and Kent and Medway will form one strategic authority,
correct,
and then the unitaries just work under that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So a bit like London boroughs and the
It's very similar.
Now, the unitary authorities are within the present county boundaries. They don't
within the present Kent and Medway boundaries.
Yeah, so they won't sort of go across Kent and Sussex or
No,
kept within the same boundaries.
No, we're not doing that, thank God.
We met the leader of Medway. Jeremy and I went to a cult meeting and met the leader of Medway, who, although his politics are not necessarily the same as KCC, you appear to be working closely together.
Yes, the letter to government on the 10th of January was a joint letter signed by Roger Goff and Vince Maple together. So far we've been absolutely in line. Yeah.
It'd be quite refreshing that people will not get mixed up with who's responsible for repairing the roads. Yeah, it's between Ashford Borough and KCC, so that would be something. Anybody like to say anything else to Mike? If not, at any point you wish to leave, by all means do so.
When we heard from Vince, John and I think we got the impression, or more than the impression, that discussions would also go on with districts or boroughs. So are they at the moment starting to align themselves with, well, we'd quite like to be with Fred and John, or rather than so-and-so, or is that just going to be a government decision and draw the lines anywhere, and they won't even necessarily go along district boundaries, of course?
No, not necessarily at all. I mean, you could do a ward boundaries and put lots and lots of wards together. The answer to your question, Jeremy, is I'm not absolutely sure. I mean, so far we've had extensive discussions with districts, with the county council, and Roger Goff has been painstaking about bringing the districts along with them. And what we have signed up to has been agreed by all district leaders. So we've done so that so far we've been totally inclusive. The government did say that in the work-up after the decision in February, and as it goes through into March and April, they will be consulting. And I imagine they mean consulting widely, and that hopefully should include parish councils as well.
Mike, can I put this? Where does the Police and Crime Commissioner fit in going forward?
The expectation, and I say, it's not certain, I don't think, but the expectation is that the Mayor will take over the role of the Police and Crime Commissioner. and may appoint a deputy mayor to, he would appoint this chap, appoint a deputy mayor, take on that role, on that work. So that's a bit of a change.
So it's a non-elected?
Yeah.
Potentially.
Well, a good question. Not yet defined. I think the answer to that. What I just said, I think of the words that are in the paper, and no more than that, I'm afraid.
This is how it works in London and most of those other regional mayors. Those deputy mayors are appointees rather than.
It does raise a question. If he's appointed rather than elected, it's a change, isn't it? And the police and crime panel, which I chair, another big question mark. I think I did try and find out, but the answer I got was it would operate at the strategic authority level and draw its membership probably from the ministries. Well, it does now.
Which is a sort of denatured police authority role because you've got the commissioner now.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay. We're still in the open session, and what we tend to do now is to proceed directly to the planning applications.
Can I raise something in the public session very briefly?
Can we do it possibly afterwards? Because we do have a couple that are going shortly. Sorry,
Yes.
Greg, we're only a couple. I've only got a short time to talk, so would you mind if we just...
Yes,
you.
the Coombe Bank is the
Yes.
relevant application, and I believe you are the owner, so
Yes.
would you like to say something?
We are. Well, what do you want to know?
Well, I think a number of us, particularly Paul here, who's a neighbour, know the situation of your property,
Yes.
of its situation, and Paul, do you have any particular comments from a neighbour's angle?
The short answer is I don't. I mean, I think the plans are very clear. I understand it. I know the property well from the outside, having lived sort of, when you say next door neighbour, it's across several fields. and that's not my decision. But I can see when you've got your chimney going, put it that way. It's not really overlooking anybody else or being overlooked. And I looked through the plans and they made sense to me. And I couldn't see any particular questions I thought you should be asked this or that or the rest of it. But that's only my view. But I haven't got anything to add.
We just fell in love with the location really, because it's just so special. It's just such a beautiful part of the world, and we really didn't know it at all. We have friends in East Sussex, but kind of found ourselves this side of the water. And it's kind of, I think with these houses, you're only ever a custodian, and what we really want to do is, refurbish it, modernise it, replace the plastic windows that are definitely coming to the end of their lives, and just make it beautiful and create a garden, because it was a bit of a wasteland from the point of view of planting and make it a wonderful habitat. We're next to the ancient woodlands, so we just want it to be lovely.
I read that there was a very supportive pre-app advice from planner.
Yes.
Was that based on the same plans that you've now put in?
Yes.
Yes.
It's not. There's no difference. No material difference.
It took into account the advice that we're given.
Yeah.
I have to say, I've never seen such a comprehensive pre-app response.
Very good. Yeah.
By my neighbour Ben Dengate, as it happens.
Yeah.
He lives across the...
He's terrific.
Yeah, well, I'm pleased to
Really
hear.
great.
But certainly I've seen it from the outside as well, and it looks like a good idea to me, but we'll be discussing that formally later on. But I don't think we've got anything from this end to query. It's a very nice place.
It's beautiful. It really is beautiful.
So, anyway, I won't prejudge what we might decide, but if you wish to stay for the formal debate, do. Otherwise, you need to go, I think. So, fine.
Lovely to meet you all.
Well, we welcome you to.
Yeah.
Maybe you've been here for 20 years, I don't know.
No, we haven't. We've literally been here for months.
Yeah, well, it's very good to know
Yeah.
some people like that.
Exactly.
Okay, good luck.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone else for putting up with our schedule. We appreciate it. Thank you.
So if we revert just to the planning applications in the order that they are, and we've still got Triburn on the menu, so to speak.
Yes.
And we've discussed that a number of occasions, and that
It's the garage now that's
requirement through. And we say,
Can I just ask a general question before we go into the individual ones? I'm remembering when we had a problem before where applications came in just before the meeting, and although our clerk had notified people, the problem in that case was the post didn't get delivered, and we've got some of these have only come in very lately. So is there a worry? I often put a lot of weight on whether the neighbours are raising issues. Don't necessarily go with it, but at least I put weight on that, or even more the lack of complaint, you know. And I'm just worried before we go through this list that some of them we might fall into a hole that we've experienced before where they haven't responded. It's not online because it takes Ashford a week or two to put them online. You know, so there are no comments on any of them today.
no.
And unless Yvonne reads them out, we haven't got any. But it may be that 2 days' time they'll say, look, didn't know. Worries? Not.
Well, we are constrained, aren't we, by the
Yeah,
period
I know,
we have
but
to
we
make a
can't.
response.
It's very
There's
hard for
quite a
us.
few of these I've already had to ask for extensions on, which we've got a weird one on Pear Tree at the moment, but I asked for extensions, they usually grant them. As you say, we've had a few come in late.
That's the one. That's the
It
one.
makes, the problem is, if they aren't people that I could spend quite a bit of time
Yeah.
walking round
Yeah.
delivering them.
Sure.
So people that aren't actually easily delivered, I post.
No criticism of you, it's just
No, well,
we're in
it's
this hole,
basically, no, it's down to me. It's got to be. I send the letters out, so it's got to be down to me.
Well, only
so
in the
I
sense
send
that
the
you'll
letters
know
out.
whether any of them were a worry.
Well, all I can say is that one of the ones that I did send out by post, sorry, Chris and June, I presume you received.
Received it yesterday.
Yes, so they have received my letter, so I'm hoping they were all posted at the same time.
Okay.
I'm hoping that others have received their
Okay.
letters as well.
When did you post them, Yvonne?
There's Friday, probably Thursday. Yeah,
bad.
Thursday.
Not bad in the village,
no.
But most within the village, I will take them round. But if you wish, I can
Yeah.
then start walking around the whole of the.
I think it's just when we're running up against
Yeah,
the
but
date
I
of the
can't get
meeting.
extensions any.
No, it's not the
much
extensions.
further.
If they've only just come in, we don't need an extension because we've got loads of time.
No, but if they're close to, I still can't get an extension for ages afterwards for the next meeting.
So we are constrained, but
That makes
I'm
sense.
hopeful
That's
that
true.
where they may be controversial, that at least one member of the parish council will have had an opportunity to visit and or view.
Well, this is it. If we're going to go down that road, which I think I have emailed to you
Yeah.
to say that as soon as I get it, because obviously now it's only when I'm preparing the agenda I think, right, what have I got to do? Then the letters go out. But as soon as I get a planning application in, I can send the letter out. But you're going to have to liaise between you as to what you know, who you go and visit. I can't get involved in that as well.
Yeah. I mean, there aren't that many that are likely to prove controversial.
If they are controversial, I always make sure that if it is a bit tight, that Ashford, I ask Ashford.
Yes. Yeah.
And as I say, most of the planning officers are very good. I know a couple of them already. You know, been there for a while.
Sure. Yeah.
So they are
Mm.
good.
I think we're being as efficient as we can be in dealing with these things. So continuing, we've got 2 at Addison Cottages, haven't we? Both of which are council-owned properties, I think, where they're simply doing what they want to do at their own expense, so no reason to query those.
I think there's things we might say on both of those though. One is that the block plan marks number 3 instead of number 2. I mean, it's really irritating.
But
Okay,
we're still on public.
all right. Okay.
Yeah.
So we haven't got anyone here to.
No,
No.
you're quite right.
So the next one is 41 Street. Again, we've got no owners.
No, and I hand delivered that one.
can you handle it with that one? We've done from that, and we've passed over Pear Tree because we're told that
It's been
it's
granted.
received consent already.
I've just checked and there's nothing on.
Surely. Go back.
You're saying Pear Tree's been granted?
So the applicant told me he's received a letter to say it's been granted.
Interesting. And yet you've got an extension.
Yeah, and there's nothing online. I've just checked this minute.
But you're now taken already.
So, anyway, Oxley Isle Manor. We have the owners here with us, which is very nice. Anything you'd particularly like to say yourselves?
Only that we bought it 6 months ago and have been planning to bring it up to a more modern standard, and it's a lovely, beautiful position, lovely, but the house needs definitely in need of a bit of care and attention, TLC, and we just, including things like solar panels to try and reduce our carbon footprint and put some and hopefully bringing it on into using air source heat pumps and things, get it off oil, and apart from that, it's really just externally, it's just new windows and one little porch on the side, and we would quite like a carport because we would like to get an electric car, and having to pull that in and out of the garage is more of an issue. But so yes, it's just really a bit of modernisation, I think.
Sure.
I mean, John, you came and had a look
As you
around.
know, I filled myself in on, it is, as you say, a lovely spot and quite an isolated one, so unlikely to provoke neighbour comments.
Well,
Our closest neighbours.
Wasn't it?
That's quite
so
a...
we're in agreement.
Oh, it's always good to know. And you're moving up from Stone, so
Yes.
you're already familiar with
Yeah.
the
area.
community, and very nice that we've stolen you from them. So, fine, well, we will be formally debating it. You're welcome to listen to what we say, but you don't need to if you want to leave.
To see how cold we get.
Yes. So that deals with all the planning conditions. Yes, Greg, would you like to say a word?
Thank you. Yes, very briefly, in anticipation of what I hope is a minor item later in the agenda, we just wanted to thank the Parish Council for your support to the climate conversation meetings held here, which everybody is welcome to. And we have asked the parish to fund approximately 3 meetings this year. That would be excellent in terms of expression of support for what is proving to be, I think, a growing and very useful forum. So I just wanted to say that.
Yes. Well, for those who are not familiar, this is one of the jewels in the crown of Wittersham, and I encourage you to get involved in due course, particularly with all your new plans and
Do join you'd be very welcome.
organisation.
We have a wide-ranging conversation, sometimes too wide, you could say, but we are basically a means by which we can share knowledge and explore anxieties really around climate, and there is a lot to talk about.
How would we find out about the meeting?
Okay, there will be a meeting, I believe we're hoping it'll be on the 8th of March, but that hasn't been confirmed yet. It will be publicised in the Outlook on it, and I think it'll appear in Next Door, but maybe bear that in mind.
Yes.
8th of March.
And I believe you had a conversation with Christopher Strangeways.
Very interesting conversation, yes.
Excellent. Good, Greg, thanks for that. Do hang on around if you want to.
Could I ask, do you need us to stay or?
No.
No. Okay. I can't feel my toes. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
So we're now
Just check
back
the
into
cinema.
closed session. You're checking the radio.
No, it's just Alan's not here. I was just wondering whether.
Oh yes, perhaps we ought to.
This one, if that's all right, I'm going to go home and finish my submission for planning committee tomorrow night. If that's
Yes,
all right.
Johnny.
But please do be in touch if anything else.
Of course. Of course. The Swan, I shall be trying to keep you abreast of.
I was going to say perhaps that's probably a phone call this day.
Yes, yeah.
Chairman, there's nothing about the land.
Yes.
We've got to.
The horse whose mouth you ought to hear from is not here at this moment.
Well, Jeremy can give you a
Yes.
quick
Just
update.
the KCC element of the
Yes, indeed. Well,
Which is broken out, or
we had a useful meeting.
good man, Jamie, somebody.
Jamie,
Yes,
good
who is the Ashford Bower
Mhm.
sort of chap at
Yeah.
and whatever it's called. It was quite hard to persuade him to come, but when he came, he was very good value,
Yeah.
which is, I think, worth pointing out.
Yeah.
He was really good. He really involved himself in the conversation, had a good look around, felt that he needed to do more research because although he'd got a view from others on what was in the archive, he was very surprised as to what they reported. I mean, it's not necessarily wrong, but it's really odd.
Yeah.
He's not averse completely, I mean it would depend, he's not averse completely to looking after the brick paving, which is where people were tripping up, but we've got to clear off the grass and debris first so we can see it properly. We left that meanwhile,
Yeah.
because it gave people a softer landing. And as far as the no man's land is concerned, you know, the rough land on which people park, he's very surprised that it is not Kent's, really. And he wants to make double sure that it isn't. I don't think he wants it,
Quite.
but it's really odd that you've taken a path by the church wall and a path by the road, which obviously is the normal highway path, and a bit in bit, and you incidentally you can't get from one to the other.
Without trespassing.
Well, without going on someone else's land, or walking a long way round on the PROW. It's bizarre.
Yeah, certainly is.
So he wants to check that, but he's certainly keen to look into it, come back to us and decide what is possible.
And this was Jamie, was it?
Yes.
You're right.
Yeah. So he was really good.
Yeah, good. No, well, I mean, we got two good officers. Jamie and Kieran are good officers too, actually. He was his little sidekick.
Okay.
Yeah, so. Good, I'm glad to make it clear. So I just wanted to make sure that before I got a bombshell down from Yvonne saying, well, what are we doing about this?
But it's just a matter now of it progressing.
Yeah.
You know, we can go with it. Providing they come up with a conclusion, we can then decide what we want to do.
My report to the answer. Sorry, I was interrupting.
Not to
Before the unitaries.
Well, you
Yes, certainly.
Well, I'd be here otherwise. Thank you very much. Good night.
Not mine.
Fine, thank you very much.
So we move on now to what we close, we go into closed session and we come to item 3, confirming the minutes of the last meeting. You've all had copies of them. Are you happy with them?
Tiny typo that I noticed in 4757, last line, there's a little out, to emphasise out that Wittersham is in a dark skies area. I think the out needs to go.
It needs to be taken out.
Yes, the out needs to go. And then not anything that needs to be changed, but I was rather amused that on the business of the flag, Alf will clean the flagpole and attachments as reported by Dave Fletcher at the previous meeting, and the clerk will look at the flag. I was wondering how long she was going to stand there.
I have it in my possession.
Oh, even better. Look at the flag.
Yes, he doesn't. You don't
Salute.
assume the flag's up the flagpole
Salute.
when the clerk's looking at it.
Well,
Right, that's it.
with the
Okay.
initial letter.
All happy with it? Yes. Okay.
Initial letter, please. Initial letter. And then sign
Can I ask a quick question just to I remember because someone mentioned it. The bit in the minutes about the 19th, 20th December, the horse and 40-mile-an-hour sign. Is there any update on that?
I'll bring that
That's
up
coming,
later.
that's coming.
Fantastic, thank you.
Right, that's the minutes. Swan update. Well, things have moved on somewhat, to the extent that we received a formal notice from Ashford Borough Council that the landlord has indicated his intention to sell. I thought we all knew that he intended to sell anyway, judging by the sign outside, but this is formality under the asset of community value legislation. And what happens now is that a 6-week period are triggered, and because it's taken a bit of time for the letter to get to us and then for it to come out to us, that period ends on 14th of February, and that's the period during which we as the village have to indicate whether or not we intend to make an offer. And coincidentally, Kevin, the publican, has emailed me because I emailed him to say what was going on, to say, would I ask the parish council whether or not they intended to make an offer. In other words, he's trying really to clear the way, I think, or to clear that out of the way. And we had always said that we would like a last gasp attempt to find a solution to the Swan, and that we would convene a meeting, and that we intend to do, and it looks as though, for various reasons, availability of this place and other things, it will probably be on the 10th of February. We will get that information out in the February edition of the Outlook, and I'll put something on next door as well. I'll also send emails out, if I can find them all, to those people who expressed an interest last time round in saving the Swan, and we then have to wait and see what interest is shown on the 10th of February, because a formal response will need to go back to the landlord, so that he can tick that particular box. Personally, I think it's unlikely that we'll gather sufficient forces together to indicate that we do intend to make a formal offer, but one can only wait to see who comes out of the woodwork on the 10th. It doesn't, of course, stop us. Should we say we're going to submit a formal offer, then that triggers a further period, which ends on the 3rd of July. That's a 6-month period from when Kevin informed the borough, during which period he would be unable to. He could continue marketing, but he could actually enter into a sale. Whatever we do, and whether or not we as a village or individuals within the village make some sort of offer, he's not bound to accept that, and so you just can't be sure what might occur. Obviously I'll be looking for what support I can find, but in particular I'll be looking for a relatively small group to get together and push forward, probably registering a community company, as we did last time, in order to solicit funds, being able to get public funding which you can achieve. That's one line of attack, but it, as I say, really relies upon individuals, and possibly one strong individual at the centre who really wants to get this done and can bring the support of the village in behind him. Alternatively, I have previously suggested that there might be a relatively small group of villagers who wish to buy the freehold themselves and find a tenant for a pub in that manner. So various potential ways are open to us, and this will all develop over the period between February and July. I'm keeping close touch with developments down the road at Iden, where something very similar is going on, and similar in many ways, including the value of the property and the intentions of those involved. At the moment they've got a fair wind behind them, but they've still got quite a way to go, I think. So that's where we are with Swan.
Can I just make a small point, John?
Yes,
I think, in my understanding, what you said about what we have to decide by 14th of February was slightly put into too stark a terms. You don't have to say we are intending to make an offer, in my understanding. It works really the other way round. We can say by the 14th of February we have no interest, we're not going to do anything at all, or on the positive side, we are working on a, whatever. We can hold it up for 6 months on the basis that we would like to, hope to, might do. It doesn't have to be absolutely promised and signed in blood that we will.
We have to make a written request to be treated as a potential bidder.
Exactly,
So
and that's it.
Right.
Potential bidder, okay, but at the end of the 6 months, we just run out of time, done, or
Sure.
we write the day before and say we didn't manage.
Yeah, no, understood. And,
There's the notice from Ashford Borough Council though, that indicates that he has a buyer, doesn't it? That's
No.
how I read it.
well, that's what I thought initially, but it doesn't seem to do that. The owner just has to say that he wishes to enter into a relevant disposal of the building or land. So it's a wish, it's not a fact, because I actually put this to Kevin in my email to him. I said, does it mean you've got somebody lined up? If so, are they proposing to run into the pub? Because I can see that should he sell to somebody with good intentions, we would have no objection. In fact, it would make life a lot easier. It could come off the agenda. But that doesn't seem to be the situation at the moment. All he's doing is clearing out of the way this formality so that the clock starts ticking, and should he find a buyer. And I also indicated to him that I felt that the price at which is currently offered is a deterrent to any possible purchaser, and would he be prepared to negotiate on that figure. I haven't yet heard back on that. But again, there are parallels down the road at Iden in terms of the value, the price being asked by the owners and the valuation from professionals as to what it's really worth. And we had this situation before when we were looking at so,
John, can I just make a small point? Thank you for doing that. I mean, getting a concrete answer out of this is very difficult, and we know that. I'm inclined to endorse Jeremy's comments about the fact that what have we got to lose by saying we could be interested. I think that this is our last shot, I think. And the meeting on the 10th of February might just be half a dozen of us. It should be 10 times that, if not more. And whilst I don't think we're going to nail it out tonight, I think we need to all think about how we can promote this. And there are some obvious things in terms of next door, but we do need to try and at least try and generate a level of interest and enthusiasm amongst people that don't normally engage in the village or sections of the community. And I'm not pointing the finger at that, but we have a thriving village school. Every child at the school doesn't all go to Wittersham. I live in Wittersham. But every child at the school pretty much has at least one parent, and it's about the future of the village. And people need to be reminded that when their house is being valued, there's a checklist. And a village pub adds to the value of the house, as does a school and a church and a village hall. There's a sort of a, maybe it's to do with the weather at the moment, I see a massive, thick, fog-like blanket of apathy over our village. And I think that if we're actually going to try one last shot at this, we need to somehow galvanise the thinking that basically sets out a challenge to people in the village. If you want a pub, I'm being recorded here, so I'll modify my language, but if you need to put some effort into the discussion, the enthusiasm, actually taking a leaf out of the climate change book as a parallel example, that's gathered interest. You've got all sorts of people in there. When it first started, I remember talking to Kate, and she was thinking, do you think anyone will come? And I didn't quote the movie, If You Build It, They Will Come, but I was tempted to. But I think the fact is, you know, we need to all gather behind you on this, all right? And just really think about how the heck can we galvanise, get people, use our own networks, almost, you know, really cajole people into saying, if you're really that interested in this village, I'm talking about some of the new people as well, you know, they all think they've arrived in this idyllic paradise, and there's no hope, there's no pub.
I think there's a bit of a misconception, certainly there wasn't from my point of view, that when we talk about people that are interested, we're looking for people with a lot of money. But actually, when I read Paul's email from was it West Peckham or wherever, and you divided the amount of money that was raised by 400 people, that was only £1,025 per person. And I think perhaps if people realise we're not looking for large sums of money necessarily, that might alter people's opinions.
I think you're absolutely spot on, and in fact you could even suggest that collectives of streets, you know, if there's a particular street in the village or a group of close-knit neighbours that can't afford 1,000, I mean, when John was leading the team initially, we were getting close, we were getting some green shoots, we were getting potential matching funds, and then COVID just scuppered the whole thing. I think if we look at where those examples are, like West, what's his name, that was in the, you know, that you know, with the Village Green, and then that was in my note, and then West Peckham, and then Bethersden, and you know, there are places, and you're practically in a cricket ball throw of one of the nicest pubs, I believe, in Kent, that's doing pretty well in the year now at Rolvenden Lane. It's a small place. It's got a particular type of offering there, but I think you're absolutely right. You know. And the fundamental question, I think, is, maybe it's too stark, I don't know, is do you want a pub in your village? Because that, to me, is the first thing. How do we raise the money and how much do we have to pay? Well, it's obviously important, but we have to kind of get people interested and saying, we need to make a decision as a community, are we remotely interested? There are also parallels with the sports club as well in these sort of issues, that you've got to get people behind in principle. But then raising the understanding of how to do this, you know, is it a penny share, is it a big share, whatever. And you know, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but you had a couple of people who were relatively wealthy or interested, but they didn't want to just, as I understood it, just push their bit in with the rest of the village going, no, I'm not interested. We've got to match interest in this at the very beginning and galvanise that and make people think it's a cause fundamentally worth fighting for.
Well, all I can say is that you know, obviously, I put out that appeal on the back of the approved text, and I think I hope it conveys the impression that anybody who could offer anything was welcome, and could they get in touch. And well, that didn't really do the business. So Sam may well be right. Perhaps the tone was not quite the right one for the moment. Having gone through all this process initially, we were dashed by COVID, obviously, but I really am aware of the amount of effort that would have to be put in if we were to consider a bid by the village for it, you know. And it would need a strong team with a very strong leader, and it needs qualified professionals up to a point. We need an accountant in there. You have to have people prepared to get involved to that extent, give up their time, you know, to get deeply involved. And among those people who have shown interest, I still haven't discovered that person or that group of people. Maybe I've said what I'm going to do. I've got a big email list hanging over. Some of them moved away or whatever it is. I've got personal contacts, and I've got Outlook and Nextdoor, and I'll do all of that. But yes, it would be great if everybody could say, look, this is for real now. You know, this is going to evaporate. And the downside of a clear failure to move forward is that then goes down on Kevin's application for change of use. I can prove that the village are not interested, you know, and although if you take the Crown in Stone as an example, they've spent 10 years trying to get change of use, and they still are being told it should be for community use.
Sure.
So it's a long haul.
One small thing, there was talk about, would Kevin accept stage payments?
Yeah, well, that's something.
Because that could be, so we don't all have to stump up the full, hypothetically 500, but if he'd accept over 5 years or something like that, and you know, that's not an unusual thing where investors will invest a certain amount for a certain percentage and then reduce their stake if they get their initial, or part of their initial investment back. It's not an uncommon approach.
Well, I shall go and see him personally before the deadline rises on the 14th of February and try to draw him out on this and just see whether I get the impression he's got a real intention, you know, or whether this process is simply to show that he can't find a buyer, that he can't make a go of it, that the village don't want it. You know, can I have planning permission for a small estate?
There is a curious aspect to this, acknowledging that change of use is the sort of, I don't know like the right metaphor, that's a little bit sort of off the wall, but in terms of a pub sale, although if we put in our holding point in February, we've got till July, he so far has said he doesn't have a buyer. Even if we put ourselves together with an offer by the whatever of July, 3rd of July is it? 3rd of July. He doesn't have to accept it.
No.
But the other way around of looking at that is that if we in fact got an offer together by December, if he hasn't sold it by then, he is as likely, and no more likely, to consider the offer in December as July. So what I'm trying to say is, July is a formal legal deadline for the process, after which you may do exactly what you said and say to Ashford, look, this proves something or other. But actually, any time we came up with an offer is as good or as bad as any other time, had he not sold it already. And at this minute, he hasn't.
You're right, except that's we need to inject a sense of purpose and urgency.
That's true as well.
I mean, look, let's not skirt around this. The track record of Kevin Pub's conversion to houses is there, not a million miles from here. Really. You know, if you look at where, I don't know of any pubs he's bought and then sold as a pub. I know he's sold them. So the question is, and whether you get an answer out of this, I don't know, but the question is it in the long game? Is he in it for the long game, or does his business need a cash injection? His overall his car business, for example, because that's undergoing, the whole second-hand car business is undergoing massive changes at the moment, and the penalties are coming in for lack of sale of EV cars, EVs, what have you. But we won't ever know that, and I think what we have to do is tap into and see if there is a real appetite, and I would position this as a community village pub. I'd get the word community right at the very front end, because if we think back on when we all started doing this, the ideas of what could go on in there, from coffee mornings to curry houses to libraries to a medical centre, I mean, you know, people who can't say they can't get an appointment at Ivy Court, etc., etc., etc. The list is as long as your imagination, you know, and that's the bit I think we have to tap into and say, this is the one opportunity that's going to come up in this village for the next 10 years, where the village can actually get a community relatable asset. Now, of course, ideally, if we could get someone to come in and buy it and run it as a pub and own it as a pub and put it, that would be our ideal. But this is the one chance we've got, and it's, frankly, I think it's time dependent, notwithstanding you're
No,
absolutely
I
right.
think you're right. The idea of urgency is useful too. But I'm just suggesting that
And
the
if we
deadline
find...
doesn't have to be a drop-dead
No.
date.
Thank you, John.
Well, thank you, Paul. I think you've made some very good points there. So, sports club lease. Jeremy, could I ask you just to update on that, because you're the one with the most recent
Well,
information?
I keep in touch with people, and I have reason to think that progress is being made and that people are actually quite happy about the way it's going, but I wouldn't wish to be seeing any more than that. There's, as other people around this table have said before, you can never quite rely on anything. But there is no particular reason at the moment from my inquiries to be as gloomy as we sometimes have been.
Yeah.
Perhaps progress on the application for CIO, is it?
Yeah.
Yes, the two sides seem to be
Effectively.
talking amicably to each other at the moment, which is good news. Okay, next item, possible transfer of PC land along to ABC field update.
Fine.
Hi, Greg.
Barbarian. Is this where we report on our meeting? Yeah. As I think I mentioned previously, we felt it necessary for the parish council to have some scheme, a costed scheme possibly in mind, should the Stocks Road development come off and an S106 payment be possibly going to come our way. As a result, we had a meeting with a young lady from a firm called Natural Playscapes on the village green. Sally was there, and Yvonne and myself, and I thought she was good, she was enthusiastic, and she could see what we were after, although there was absolutely no promise of any work for them at the end of the day, because we're a long way from that. But Yvonne will fairly shortly be receiving a price quotation from her that we think probably would be somewhere in the sort of £50,000 region for a 20 by 20 fenced play area.
20 by 20 metres, or metres it's got to be.
Yeah. And their designs are all contemporary, but also with natural materials. The upside is that's rather nicer and more environmentally friendly. The downside is they're possibly more subject to vandalism, should you be unfortunate enough
Sadly.
to have vandals within the community. But in principle,
Yes.
it would give us a scheme, we need to go with it, but something to say to Ashford when they say to us, have you got any ideas for things that you would like?
It may also, of course, help to stimulate Ashford to think more seriously about the land transfer.
Yes, yes, indeed. It would make a lot of sense to try to get that transferred at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, land fronting St John the Baptist Church update. Jeremy, you again, I think probably.
Well, we had a meeting with the officer from Kent County Council Highways, who is responsible for highway schemes within the Ashford Borough. The Vice Chairman, Alan, and myself and the clerk were there with the guy from KCC. It was a very positive meeting, very helpful, and he went away to check details which he found somewhat surprising. What he'd been provided from the archive he found rather surprising, and he wanted to double check it before he went any further. But in principle there may be a way forward.
Good.
I can just add that Alf will be clearing the path.
Good.
Alan had asked Philip Maynard to help as well. But Alf is quite happy just to get on.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that-
I think he usually prefers on his own.
Yes, I have spoken to both of them.
Yeah.
And Dave.
Yeah.
And the job, is it trimming and weeding?
Yes, yes, it will weed kill the stream and then clear it all.
Okay. Planning applications have been dealt with. We can move on to item.
Nope.
Sorry.
Oh, what's it on?
Very well.
It's on mine.
What have we got?
ABC caretaker scheme,
Indeed.
agreed
Got that,
draft
yes.
letter.
Oh, yes, your letter.
Indeed.
Ah,
It's
yes.
been-
No, well, that's very important indeed, and I believe you've now had a draft of the letter
Yes.
that we're proposing to send.
Yes.
I think we're probably all rather cynical about this particular item, and we don't expect Ashford to come up with a wonderful offer of index linking our original price. They're only going to offer our clients, our current clients, well, their clients, the very basic service, I think, and that's what they're going to suggest is the value of the work.
Yes.
So it's hard not to think that the caretaker scheme may possibly come to an end because they simply won't agree to pay us a sum that reasonably rewards us for the work that we do.
Unless there's a change of view, the dog days of the Biden administration,
Yes.
that they are going to be no longer.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes that has an interesting impact on,
Well, that's true.
you know, and
Yeah.
you know, in our case, the letter, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I mean, we did start off at the very beginning as the flagship for Kent.
Yeah.
You know, we aimed high and
We
we got
were
it.
in the national brochure on localism.
Exactly.
Right.
I went up to
Yeah.
London to
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
presentation.
Indeed.
So things. I mean, I think I happen to agree with you, but I think things might change as such, and if they're so dependent on, so keen on giving all this power to parish councils, that
Very
could
much.
be an interesting vehicle.
I would have thought 26 or whatever he said,
Yeah.
or 27.
26.
If anything's going to come to local councils, local land is high up the list
List.
because it's the most burdensome to someone who's 50 miles away.
Yeah.
And if that happens, it's got to come with money.
Yeah.
And we do have an existing relationship, obviously, with the other parishes.
Yeah.
You know,
But I mean, everything will be lost and then it will be start again. But quite possible.
well, our aim really is to get a meeting as soon as possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would agree entirely.
Get
Yeah.
an idea as to what they're prepared to offer or whether they're prepared
So
to
to offer anything. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's fine, and the letter will go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, now we can move on to correspondence items.
Planning.
Have we not done that?
Well, we're coming back to it.
Haven't made any
Oh,
decisions
of
yet.
course, we've only discussed it with the, yeah, sorry.
Well, the family was keen to
It felt like we had. Okay,
One at a time.
okay, item 5A, proposed garage. I think previously we've agreed we can only support it, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Everyone happy with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Fine. Pear Tree Cottage.
That's the one that the chap tells me it's already been granted.
Yes.
I have just looked half an hour ago online, and there's
It's-
nothing to say it has been.
Can I suggest, if I may, that if they gave us an extension and then they've granted it, we should be making representations to them. We did that once before, if you remember, where they even gave the thing saying they hadn't heard from us and they had. And then going way back, there was an occasion where John, I think, wrote to the head of planning and complained bitterly and got a long excuse back, which was rubbish, but nevertheless, it was definitely marked against them that they didn't take any notice of us.
Well, they've been, on the, when I looked, it's the dates that they have to make the decision by, which they always put down, is the 31st of January. So it's not even got to the date where...
How reliable is the applicant in their enthusiasm to say that it's all been granted?
I mean,
What do you think?
He was really... He said the council have all agreed it.
Could we possibly request,
Shall we?
given the council have, maybe he'd be kind enough to photograph or scan or
Maybe not.
Well, like,
photocopy?
no,
Did he-
Maybe we just take our decision now and
Yeah.
you put it in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
that's
and,
yes.
and if
Did
they
he-
say, well, it's already granted, well, complain.
Did he say which, how we heard that it's been granted?
No.
He'd had a letter, he said,
I
didn't
think, yes.
Yeah.
It was a letter.
Yeah. But I say, I've just looked.
There's
And
nothing.
I'm
There's,
connected, so I've
Yeah.
just looked online.
I think Jeremy's got a good point here. I
Yeah.
think we should treat this as it hasn't been, we are not aware it's been granted.
We've got to do it
Therefore,
anyway.
Yes.
because
Exactly,
we
we
have
should
to do it
discuss
now
this
or
and
not.
agree and,
Yeah.
you know, and then we put forward, and if we then find out that we've been bypassed, that's a different
Yeah.
issue.
yes, that's aware.
I've looked at this online, I don't know if others of you have. There are no comments from neighbours
No,
as I work.
and the interesting, the Chillingworths, who house it is sort of attached to,
On the front.
haven't
Yeah.
come.
No, there's nothing.
And they've come to a meeting before, so they
Yes.
Yeah.
do know, and I hand delivered it through their letter.
What I thought was really bizarre, and that's why I'm also interested always in neighbours, I found it very difficult to follow exactly what's being done on a lot of drawings, and because everything's on one screen, and I'm not going to print it all off. But where they've got a building here, partly against the back of whatever it
Now
is,
present.
Mount Pleasant
Mount Pleasant.
Conservatory.
and they've got another one over here, and they're going to join them together with a single story. The one they're running along the back of, Mount Pleasant, has got upstairs windows looking out over the new roof that they're going to build. I mean, it is really bizarre.
And
But
actually,
if
on
they're
one
happy,
of the
then that's fine.
documents,
Not unusual in an urban
Yeah,
area.
it's not a problem for us. Yeah.
on one of the documents which said location plan and then had 7 in brackets, the red line was including the outbuilding in Mount Pleasant
Yes.
and not Pear Tree.
I noticed that. I didn't know whether it meant we're not counting that in our site, even though it is, or whether it was just a mess, you know, as so often. But I mean, if the neighbours aren't complaining, I would usually say, fine.
Yeah,
But it did seem really odd, as you say, though, in an urban area, it could be ordered.
Yes.
I couldn't find any reason
No.
to object to on planning grounds.
No.
That's the core, isn't it?
No.
And the fact that they haven't come, the
Yes.
neighbours.
Okay.
Mm.
I mean, obviously, if we support it, and we haven't done that yet, if we support it, we haven't got a material concern if they have granted it, but we have an administrative
Yeah.
concern
Yes.
that they've messed around.
So,
So what, are we supporting
I
that?
think, yeah.
I
Yeah.
can support it.
Yeah.
Support it, yes, that's the decision. But yes, let's not lose sight of this situation and chase up the fact of whether or not it has really
Yeah, see, there's my extension granted.
Yes, yeah. Well, we'll write a note, and should we discover that they haven't allowed time to consider our comments, then I think, yes, we will compose something.
Oh, but yeah, I will email Charlotte.
Yes,
I'll support on the portal, but I'll go straight to the planning office.
okay, that's good. Okay. Addison Cottages, 2 council-owned properties. No real reasons for not supporting.
I think where there should be comments made, I would suggest, by the clerk. I think it's really, I mean, this has been put together by a planner. I think his name's actually on it. I saw somewhere, unless it was just being mentioned as opposed to that he'd written it. What I thought was really poor I mean beyond poor actually, there is no mention of it being in the conservation area. We've said this before. No mention of it being in the conservation area, except at the end of the note that they write all about it, there's a little template there. It says something like, this is where you say why you want to do it all, and particularly make mention if it's a listed building or in a conservation area. That's on the bottom of the note,
template.
where they didn't mention it. And when you think the amount of fuss that they make about listed buildings, the conservation area is just a step down, but it's still, you know, you can't do anything without permission, and this, that and the other, and the planners don't even recognise that they're in the conservation area and point it out. And then given that they're in the conservation area, nothing about, well, they say, oh, the impact on the street scene will be fine. Well, it won't be. I mean, it may be fine, it will not be unnoticeable. It's going to be quite noticeable that firstly the things come out with a step change in the wall. It's not like yours because that's your whole cottage. This is sort of a terrace with goes along a bit, comes out a bit, goes in a bit, comes out a bit, and the obviously the rendering and everything will all be different. Now it may be. I'm not at all against the idea of improving the energy conservation. Absolutely right. I'm all in favour of it, but time after time I've been nagging Ashford in COUT meetings when I've had the chance that they really should be getting onto the government and saying we can't carry on with this stupidity with listed buildings where you're not allowed to put double glazing in on a listed building because you're making it look different. Well, are we in a climate emergency as they're always happy to proclaim or not? And then when it suits them, they'll do this. Okay, I'm not saying the conservation area should stop it. I'm saying, well, does the conservation area take priority, like listening, or doesn't it? I think it shouldn't. I think they should be doing this, but they want it both ways. And then administratively, it's a mess, because they can't even pick up the fact that they're in a conservation area. And then just to add on the next one, if I can jump ahead, number 2, they actually mark on the block plan number 3. Which house is it they're doing? I don't know. Could be either.
It's very sloppy and it's
Awful.
actually left hand not knowing. It reminds me
Well,
of when
right, yeah.
Roger Kimber sold his house in the street and he ended up being the witness of a huge argument between the historic buildings listed building person and the planning officer. They practically had a stand-up fight. And Roger said it was the most amazing he'd ever seen. All he wanted to do was put a new internal door in, which none of us would have ever seen unless we got invited in. But I think this is very sloppy. You make a very good point there. I just think the view that we just need to get on and give them the nod.
Point out.
Yeah.
And
We're happy with it. But
I mean, the fact that they've almost got a template and they're not filling in something they require else is laughable. But it is what it is.
So we vote support.
Yeah, I think so.
Support both of them.
I mean, interestingly, the next one, 41 Street, where they're actually replacing, they are actually, it is more than double glazing going in there.
Well, they've had to they put double glazing in already.
They
They were then told to take it out again
It was
because
wrong.
it was wrong.
Yes.
And this is not even the first attempt at getting permission to do something different. They are making Ashford is making a complete meal of something that doesn't add up to tons.
Yeah.
And they ticked the box that the work had already started on this application. So
Well, it started in the sense they put the wrong ones in.
Yes, that's where it was. Yeah.
I'm just despair because I think that, I mean, I'm a practical guy really in this kind of context. And I think that for the government and the councils to keep banging on about how you're not allowed to do things, you know, because I'm all in favour of the listed buildings where it's sensible, but climate, you know, the energy conservation counts too, and they don't care. If you're in a listed building, then frankly, if you're burning £5 notes, who cares? Or you can't find £5 notes, that's probably the reason.
Anyway, that's another one to support.
Yes.
Not. Coombe Bank, we've heard the owners, we've seen the site, but personally would encourage
I was
this.
very impressed with that. I mean,
Yeah.
if they carry on this project with the same care and attention, they've clearly got somebody who knows what they're doing from
That's
an
right.
architect's point of view. I just wish them well. I think it'll look jolly nice.
Right.
No problems at all.
No, good. So we support
Yeah.
Coombe
Yeah.
Bank
Mm-hmm.
and Oxley Isle Manor. I mean, both these two couples coming into the village who strike me as interesting
Yeah.
people who could well be
Yeah.
joining
That's
in.
not a
things.
planning consideration.
Well, social housing. Yes.
Oh.
Anyway, I think we all agree to
Yeah.
support
No problems.
No.
Oxley Isle Manor too.
Particularly the emphasis they were placing on solar power and electric, all the right things in that sense. So
Yeah. It's a fabulous
encouraged.
position that.
Yeah.
It's a really jerry-built house, and anything they can do to improve that will be welcome. Okay. Correspondence. Unity Trust Bank. They
Reduced again.
reduced again along with
Yeah, they
Anybody
reduced in November and they're reducing it again
Yeah.
from the 18th of February.
to what rate do you know?
Yes, it will be, instead of 2.6, it'll be 2.5.
Yeah. Well,
Not big.
Mm. No,
okay. That's
good
that
at all.
one. We've dealt with the ABC in relation to the Swan. And Melvin Smith, that relates to the planning application, hasn't yet arrived. I think,
No,
has
it
it?
hasn't come back.
For the
It
old
was
dairy shed.
Yes, it was.
He's just anxious, obviously.
Yes, about the hedge.
About
so
the
I
hedge.
don't
But do you
know
believe it is coming back for any reason? Because, you know, what I heard was not.
No, he didn't know. He
Just in
he
case.
hadn't heard,
Mm.
but it hadn't been.
Yeah.
What's the word?
Withdrawn, in effect.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't withdrawn.
Mm.
It wasn't.
There was a
Oh, it
problem with
wasn't
the red line,
validated.
wasn't there?
Or verified.
Yes.
Validated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Problem with the red line.
Mm.
Yes.
It's hard to believe that nothing will happen there because it needs to really. I mean, it would make sense to do something. Fine. Payments for
Not that
authorised
there's a
search.
housing crisis, obviously.
Indeed. Yvonne's expenses, can we
No,
agree?
we haven't climate change.
With Kate's asking for
Oh,
funding.
climate.
You've got the old agenda.
Yeah,
This is-
yeah.
yes.
Sorry.
I should abstain on that one.
Can you just remind me what the cost is, approximately, to hire it's this room, isn't
It's
it?
this room, yes,
It's this room.
which is
20 quid?
yeah, it's 14 for me on 2 hours in the morning, so it's about that sort of for a couple of
Right.
hours. It's 20 in most.
So 28 times 3.
So I think we're all happy to
Yeah.
encourage
Yeah.
that particular group on the left.
Yes.
I think it's a great initiative, and we're lucky that we
Yes.
get a bit of the credit for it,
Yeah.
which obviously if we're paying for it, it helps. But as I said, just to be extremely overzealous, I'll abstain from the actual vote. I
Well,
think I
I suppose
voted
I'll
last
do the
time.
same as I was present at the tea party.
As was
Everyone
I.
else happy?
Yes.
Sign up, this meeting is sponsored by the Parish Council. When people say, so what did the Parish Council do for you in their Python-esque
Fine.
way?
Indeed.
So, Hugo Fox, they've updated the.
How many people noticed? Top of your agenda. Where I put the website address.
I didn't notice it.
I didn't notice it.
Oh.
Is that not the website address?
It is now.
Music hall
We
strikes
used to
again.
be wittershampc.org.
Yeah.
Oh,
It used to be there. We are now
Yeah.
-pc.gov.uk.
You have to have a PC in it, otherwise we'd be the government of Wittersham.
Well, who knows? I mean, the way things are going, I'm hoping for tax raising powers at the council level.
Well, we have tax raising powers.
Put a toll road in.
So we have tax
Yeah,
raising
so that's all done.
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank
Oh,
you.
that's sorry.
That's very good.
I should
Yeah.
obviously printed that out. I don't want to miss anything else. Yvonne's expenses from October to December.
You've all seen.
We've had
Yes.
most of those, which seems very modest. So if we can approve those, thank you. And the working party reports, the big issue over the caretaker we've dealt with.
Yes, yes. If I can just say, going back to the flagpole, I had a WhatsApp from Alf today to say that the flagpole is done. It's been removed, straightened, cleaned,
Yes.
touched up, sprayed the worst bits, new rope and spring clips. Top crown was particularly grotty, so that was rubbed down and sprayed. And as I say, Dave has given me the flag, and it's the M bit, you know, where you've got the.
He looked
It
as
just
he
needs-
looked as he was there this morning like this.
Yeah.
I thought, what's he doing down there? And then I saw his van, and he was just. But yes, he was there.
Yeah, and I'm just going to stitch up the edge
Well,
of the
thanks
flag.
to him, and perhaps we ought to inform Dave Fletcher what we
Oh yes, yes,
the work has done.
yes. It was last week, that last coffee morning that Dave brought the flag round to me.
Good.
And I have the van has just been serviced and passed its MOT,
Good.
which is all good. And I've had new rates from Robert Pudan for the gang home that he does. So it was Woodland View was 60, it's now 65, Coronation Field was 40, now 45. Churchyard was 140, it's now 150.
Mm.
He didn't increase last year.
That's pretty reasonable,
Yes.
given the fuel costs that we have.
So again, if we could approve those and
Sure.
3 quarterly budgets stay.
We'll see the main one, which I set out the wrong one to start with.
Yes, well spotted, Jeremy.
So you've now got hopefully the correct one. So you will see that we get on the instant access, which is one that they've reduced, we get the credit interest there quarterly. So that's the £98 that we've got there. I'm waiting for the invoice to be paid from KCC. They've passed it, so it's in process. But I'm down to, I don't know whether perhaps Sally noticed when the balance at the moment in the ordinary account is about £500. I'm rather hoping that the 8,000 will come in before salaries, but I don't know.
I think that the CCLA dividend, just reassure myself that my value to the council was quite significant.
You're going down in history.
Indeed.
It's good to see the sort of the cemetery paying its way.
Oh, yes, the next we get.
Excellent.
We're still waiting
Steady
though for
stream.
that, well, we're coming to cemetery anyway.
Okay, no other queries on that?
So if you could just sign that one, please. So that's caretaker one, which is, showing about 30 moment, thank you. Yes, you've got the third quarter's budget. I think everything's fairly straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody happy? Any questions?
No.
Fine. Thank you.
Yeah.
This one too?
Yes, please. Interesting to see the amount we've had amount of interest
Indeed.
we've had over
Fantastic.
3 quarters of the year.
Yes.
Maybe a problem for Rachel from wherever she's come from, but several options, but for us it's good.
Okay. Planning decisions received, none to date other
I've
than.
got one. Well, no, I got Hope Farm Bungalow. It's been granted with conditions, got quite a few conditions on it.
That's the little knockdown one,
As you go
falling
leave the
down one
village.
that's going to be enlarged. Yeah.
Is that grounds?
Yes.
No.
No, well, no, it's urban, but it was opposite the Browns.
Mm.
Right.
But they had 14 letters of support, I think.
They whipped up their letters.
Yeah.
And friends. Yeah. Yes, but it's opposite Browns.
Open spaces. Is that the yeah. You need. Oh, cool. Shall I call afterwards? Phone and see what's up with that.
Well, I saw him on Sunday, but
I think Wilma had been in hospital, hadn't she?
she wasn't there, so
She was in hospital.
I don't know. I didn't hear.
She was. Yeah, you told me.
Oh, okay, so that could be.
That's the reason.
Yes, visiting.
Public rights of way. Anything?
There's a fence post, I think, that's gone down the Archer's Post sort of corridor. It's not Archer's Post, it's Chris and Mary's side.
Pancoast.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole, as we came through last
It's
week,
leaning,
it's leaning
yeah.
very much so.
Mm.
That's our
Yes.
responsibility.
Well, I've got an email address. Is he still working on what he's always worked on? Because I've got that address. I might just email him.
Who is it?
Chris Pancoast.
Um,
Leave that with me.
okay. Highways, we're still waiting for a date, are we, for our horse and 40 mile an hour?
Yes, I've chased him twice now. Really want to point out we paid for that in July.
Yes.
I said to him that we've got a meeting tonight, I'd like an answer.
Mm.
But he is actually appearing to be ignoring me at the moment.
The bend by the Swan, a couple of people pointed out, how long do we wait for subsidence before we report it? And it's one of those things that I always say to people, you've got the opportunity of reporting online.
Yes,
It is a good
they need
reporting
to.
tool. But I did notice on the way here tonight, it seems to be sort of a couple of areas sinking further down. So
It's the old ones going again.
it is, yeah.
Well, they haven't.
Luckily, the biggest old one doesn't seem to be appearing in the sinkhole.
Well, the sinkhole was done, I think, very thoroughly.
It was done properly, yeah. But,
Well, apart from anything else, they've gone this far down to
yeah,
rather than just faffing about at the top.
yeah, but nothing else.
Okay. Cemetery, we're still waiting for the report.
Yeah, this actually it's my fault because when I came to it, when I was looking to see chase it again, I hadn't actually replied to her.
Oh.
So all my it's sitting there in the outbox. So I went straight as soon as I found it. Went straight to her. She came straight back to me. She asked what management we've had over the last 3 years, what's been happening to the land, and whether we've used fertiliser. So I just went back and said it's just been cut on an irregular basis. So she said, in that case, the grassland needs a good botanical survey, and I strongly recommend to wait till mid-May for the site visit.
Is that to show that it's got lots of funny little weeds in it that are good?
Probably.
Well, we'll dig them up later.
And so we go on. That's,
Yes, it's
Yeah.
as far as we can.
We need that for the planning application.
Yes.
Bizarrely.
Okay. Next meeting is as scheduled, 7th of February, 7 p.m. Items for information.
I just got that Jo Voss, you all know Jo Voss,
Mhm.
our community warden, and you know that Jo has reported that she's still our community warden, still got her same area. I don't think she's got St Michael's now, but
No.
she obviously doesn't have that much time, so to come to a meeting, she'd rather not, but she has come to the coffee mornings. So I've said, well, that's good, because if she's going to come every second Thursday, then I can tell her things, she can tell me things. So I've left it to save her coming out of a cold evening when she could be doing something else. That's what I would report. So if there's anything you want me to say to her,
I think just to encourage her and to say we haven't come to a decision about provision of biscuits for the cold evenings. You're better off going to the coffee morning, frankly. But she does a good
How
job.
old is she?
she's got 2 young children.
All right.
Yes.
She's been consistent, very diligent over the years.
Oh, she's,
Yeah.
yes,
You can get
she's,
good value for money, I think.
yes, if produce
See, that's the temptation. Yeah. But she's employed by somebody.
yes, KCC.
KCC.
Right.
Yeah, she's in uniform, but she stayed the whole,
She's at the moment.
she stayed the whole time, didn't she? Sally helped me on Thursday because Leslie couldn't make it. So yes, and she was talking to Mary PC, wasn't she? Then I think that seemed to be useful because Mary often used to know things that are going on. So
Actually, Tenterden North is still in their list, so I would have thought St Michael's is in Tenterden North ward. Although, if it comes into Tenterden, if there's a Tenterden Central, it doesn't. It's Tenterden North, Wolverhampton and Tenterden South and Isle of Oxney. Around here.
I thought she said. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But that's what we've arranged, that I will. So I told her about the snowballs that I picked up on next door that were being thrown at people. No, it's doors, wasn't it? Doors and cars that they were being thrown at. Yes, so she said, oh yes, well that happens.
That's always happened.
Yes, quite nice. Fine. I think that's all right.
Yes, Alan did mention that he is a school governor now.
That's true.
Which I thought was useful.
Sue's got the T-shirt.
Yeah. Is it glutton for punishment?
He's declaring his interest left, right and centre.
He will, yeah.
But it is useful because I don't know if you remember when I sent round something from one of the organisations that we do, I did, there was something about school and it wasn't transport, it was kids and walking and that sort of thing, that KCC have got have someone that could come and talk
A green travel plan.
Yes, something like that, which I thought, that is then that's ideal, that's what we want, is
That was
that.
the new standing head.
Yeah, I thought that could be useful.
True. Were there to be any members of the public?
But,
We would
we've
take
got
the
to
night
say-
in excluding them.
Okay.